Peace, everyone. I pray all is well. So, today, what I want to talk about is joy, fulfillment, being in the state of joy. Now, right off the bat, I just want to say that joy can look like many different things. You don't have to be, bouncing off the walls. You don't have to be smiling, even. You can have an inner smile. You don't have to express yourself or be very outgoing in order to be experiencing joy. Oftentimes, when in a social setting, if you are not smiling, if you're not acting a certain type of way, people automatically assume that you're not in a state of joy. But your joy can be expressed in many different ways. Joy can be introspective, it can be inquisitive. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be putting yourself out there in any specific kind of way. And that's okay. So we rob ourselves of our joy when we feel like we have to act a certain way. We feel like we have to put on some sort of a show that is actually not in alignment with the energetic reserves that you have at the time. That goes into the next thing I kind of want to bring up, which is your energy and the way that you can utilize your energy, kind of like a bank account. If you know that you are extremely busy in one day and you don't necessarily have the energy to be putting on this show as to make people, convince people that you're joyful according to what they are defining as joy, fulfillment, then you're going to expend energy doing something that is not going to give you joy, is going to take away from your joy, and then it's going to create more unjoyful feelings or more stress really in your life if you don't have the reserves for it, therefore creating misalignment with what you're supposed to be doing on that said busy day. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. We can become aware of the ways that we utilize our energy. We can reflect and we can introspect on what makes sense for the moment. There is an appropriate time and place for everything under the sun. And if you become aware of those appropriate moments to act in accordance to whatever it is that is going to allow your life to flow more easily and more joyfully as a result, we will be able to optimize our life experience, right? Energetically, emotionally, mentally, physically, and all across the board is going to be easier for you if you become aware of this. Most of the time, if you're depressed, you're not necessarily thinking about that. You've outdone yourself to the point where you literally have no energy reserves. So this is to bring that to the light of awareness. We don't even realize how we got to the position that we're in when we're depressed. We're like, how did it even come to this, right? How did it get this bad? How aware were you? My question for you, how aware were you throughout this entire time up until this moment of your energy levels, of the way that you were allocating your energetic funds throughout your life experience? And are you open to becoming aware of how you are utilizing your energy moment to moment? Preparation is extremely important. I've talked about this in many of my different videos, but I'm going to say it again because this is what it's all about. If you have something to do one day, you can prepare the day before. Whether you're doing something physically or mentally or emotionally, you can prepare for the next day. So let's say the next day you have created a container with another person where in which you are going to have a conversation that you know is going to be emotional. The fact is, in this life, we are going to experience some emotions, and a lot of the times it's heavy emotions because that's just the times we're living in. So you have created a container, a space and time with another person to have an emotional conversation, necessarily. Then that day before, maybe you can prepare by opting out of investing your energy into something that is extremely emotionally charged. Because tomorrow you're going to have that emotionally charged conversation, and it's not going to be that easier kind of conversation. So today you can choose to utilize this day to prepare yourself for that conversation or not. But the bottom line is you're not going to be so invested in emotionally charged energy today as to prepare for tomorrow. Another example. Let's say tomorrow you have a day full of labor. You've got to move, you have boxes to pack, you are dealing with the emotions of a shift, a transition into a new space, a new place, in a new time. Perhaps today you're going to spend the day taking care of your body. You're going to spend the day getting your energy moving. You're going to spend the day stretching, right? And what you're not going to do is you're not going to spend the day arguing with people. You're not going to spend the day helping another person move. You're not going to spend the day doing things that will not allow you the adequate enough energy to carry out the task of tomorrow. Now, to believe that we have some limited energy source is going to ultimately limit your life experience. So you don't necessarily have to train your mind in such a way as to create these sorts of limitations, but what you do have to do is honor where you're at. And you can simultaneously train your mind to be able to carry out that task. Maybe today you do have the energy to expend helping another person move, and then tomorrow you can move yourself, right? And you can do both because you have trained your mind to get into that position. But that is only if you're actually there. If you're in a place where that's genuinely going to drain you, that's genuinely not where you're at physically, mentally, emotionally, then you can spend this day being more selfish, being more in alignment with what your needs are. Your body is communicating to you. Your body can tell you what move to make. And the movements that we make are natural. It isn't until we start expending energy, worrying about what we should do or how we should do something. You just have to get it done. This is a naturally occurring thing. You don't have to be so mental about the things that you have to do, because that actually takes energy and it creates a lot of mental rigidity. Whereas if you're just aware of the task at hand and you feel inwardly called to carry out that task, and then you do so, or you're just aware of the time frames that that task must be carried out, then you plan accordingly to that. If you have somewhere to be in 30 minutes, perhaps you can utilize the 30 minutes that you have until that time to complete a different task that will allow for you to transition into another task after you've done that 30-minute task. Makes sense? Makes sense to me. If you can, catch up, or if you can, follow me, then that would make sense. So if not, that's all right. You don't have to understand that. It's not like something that you should go back and re-listen to understand unless you want to. But point is, you have to prepare and know how you're moving your energy. And you can weigh out your options. You can come to an understanding of what makes the most sense for you in this moment. So it's a balance between understanding what makes sense for this moment, having a good idea of what your schedule is, what your energy levels are, but then also simultaneously understanding that you can just get a task done. And that in some moments when you expend your energy trying to rationalize a task getting done, or you're mentally resisting, or you're overly exerting energy into going about doing that task, that's when things start to get a little bit weird, right? So this is just to put things in perspective. It's just to help give you an understanding of how you can really hone in on your joy fulfillment while you do work, because the joy is found in the work. A lot of us have a problem with work. Oh, I don't want to go to work. I don't want to go to work. It's because you're not doing what is fulfilling to you. If you are dreading the work that you do, then you're doing the wrong work. You have to love what you do and do what you love. And even then, it's not a walk in the park. So if you don't like what you do, it's definitely not going to be easy, because work is work. But you have to train your mind in order to really learn how to appreciate the work. This life would be a lot more boring if there was nothing to work on. Right? And you could be working on your mind. You could work on your mind in such a way where doing nothing is not boring, or doing nothing is peaceful. But you're still putting in the work in order to get yourself into that space. Right? So work can look like a lot of different things. Joy can look like a lot of different things. It all comes down to the definitions that you have about particular things. The way that you define things in your mind and the way that you relate to them personally, interpersonally, that is how you're going to be really having an understanding of why you have the results you do, of where these things are coming from. So when you try to relate to somebody who has a completely different definition of that which you are speaking about, there can be some discord, there can be some misunderstanding. That's why it's so important to understand who you are and to discern when it's appropriate to relate to another person. At times when we are in this energy of communication or receiving and giving with another, instead of fixating on what that person is saying based off of a definition that you don't even know what their definition of that thing is, you can feel into the energy of it and you can try to find some understanding, right? Instead of projecting or, making some sort of assumption that isn't true. Or instead of being offended or feeling some type of way, when in fact you guys very well may be agreeing wholeheartedly on the situation. But because you're not aware that the definitions is what is creating here, the way that you're seeing things, your perspective, that's when some confusion may arise. So don't be afraid to express your joy in a room full of people by sitting and doing your thing, observing. Maybe observing makes you so happy. And actually, that state that you were in, observation, the rest of the week, you're going to have moments where you recall that memory and it's just going to crack you up because you observed so many things. So that was like a wellspring of joy for the remainder of your week. Whereas if somebody tries coercing you to act some type of way that isn't authentic, and then you go on to play that part, play that role, you expend your energy, now you're not going to have that wellspring of joy to utilize and to laugh at throughout the week, and you've depleted your energy by being somebody you're not. Does that make sense? So I pray that was helpful in any way. I'm wishing you guys wellness. I'm wishing you guys a beautiful day, a beautiful evening, a beautiful night, all that. So peace to you in your authenticity, in your joy. Enjoy it. Enjoy it whether you are singing on top of a mountain or you are literally hiding underneath a blanket, wiggling your toes.